and welcome to this edition of Colorado Outspoken. I'm Stephen Montez. On tonight's show, we'll have part 2 of our series on addiction in the GLBT community. We'll be talking with some organizers of an upcoming event aimed at helping community members in the quest for equality and fairness. We'll also focus on the local group Harmony, a Colorado Chorale, and we'll take you to the recent Bear to Make a Difference event sponsored by the Matthew Shepard Foundation. Of course, we'll also have the news and a first look at a great new movie. First up, addiction. Here's Fawn Oats.
Cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, these are all addictions that we're used to talking about. Many of us have experienced these things either firsthand or through friends and family. Something that is rarely discussed is the idea of sex addiction. What does it mean to be a sex addict? How do we separate normal sexual interest and deviant sexual addiction? Tonight I have the pleasure of talking to Tiffany Jones, registered sex therapist. She's the head of the Denver Sexology Center and has been working as a sex coach for the last 10 years. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. So let's just start by talking about what is addiction. If we're talking about sexual addiction, what does that mean? How can somebody be a sexual addict?
That's where I think the problem kind of originates, is looking at what is a sex addict versus what is not a sex addict. Can we start with what sex addiction is not?
Sure.
Sex addiction is not people that experience healthy sexual relationships, even if it, includes a number of people in a given day. It's going to be varied from person to person.
And that comes back to the idea of, well, what is healthy then? A lot of people will ask, well, am I normal? Is my behavior normal? So how can we tell if that's healthy behavior versus unhealthy behavior?
I think if the behaviors are getting in the way of a person's life in terms of their family, their relationships, their job, that's when it becomes a problem. If you can still maintain healthy relationships and family and work and home and still have 10 sex partners in a day, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Do you find that happens very often, that people have multiple sex partners during the day and not have any underlying problems?
I do see that. I mean, people have really high sex drives and want to express and kind of act out on those fantasies without kind of holding them in. A lot of people hold in their fantasies where other people are more comfortable with actually going out in the day and acting out on those things and still being able to maintain everything at home.
Sure. So how could I tell if my behavior is more abnormal? Is it a matter of comfort? Is it a matter of maybe my life is okay and I'm going to my job, but every night when I go home, all I do is look at pornography on the internet. Is that a problem?
I think if you see it as a problem, it takes, I think, first the individual to look at their own self and their motivations for their behaviors. Are you doing this because it's something you enjoy, or are you doing it to avoid dealing with other problems that you might have? What's motivating you to act in, or to engage in viewing pornographic material or whatnot? If it's not getting in the way of your life, again, I don't see that it's necessarily a problem. If it's trying to mask something else, then that's where you have to kind of look at the addiction side.
What would you say are the primary motivations of a lot of sex addicts, maybe, that you've worked with?
Well, I think that the motivation is something that is an individual is experiencing internal problems and has underlying other sometimes psychiatric problems or depression or self-esteem issues, and they're acting out to try to either create some type of intimacy that's not there, or to avoid intimacy that they could be having if they had a consistent person in their life. So,
and that seems to be a big thing, that idea of intimacy. Is it running away from intimacy, or is it trying to find intimacy?
I think it would vary from person to person. Sex addiction as a term is just so broad. And then when you look at individuals and their sexual behavior, they differ so much from person to person. So I think it's going to just vary depending on the person who's experiencing these thoughts and feelings.
And it seems like the gay community has really gotten this label of sex addiction more than, I would say, the heterosexual community. That may be biased. Do you think it has something to do with homosexuality already being seen as deviant, so any other label, well, that would just go along with the first deviant behavior? What would you think about that?
I think that there is some type of connection with the gay and lesbian population already being seen as kind of going outside the norms of what's acceptable sexually. Even though that is changing, there still is, society attaches some negative connotations to those behaviors. So it's easy to kind of throw multiple labels at people. In this day and age, people have all sorts of illnesses combined into one. So it just kind of it's medicalizing these sexual behaviors that I don't, in an error, in an erroneous way. I don't think it's necessary.
And it seems like we've always had that problem of other people telling us what sexuality is normal, not only in the gay community but in the heterosexual community too. It's just as varied. Whether you're into bondage or anything like that, getting that label of deviancy, of addiction. What do you think about that?
I think that it's a reflection of what's going on historically and socially for us, and we have to see how things have kind of evolved over time. Labels have come in and out of usage as far as what's a disorder versus what's just, someone's choice. Homosexuality is something that has been termed in the past as being an illness, where now it is not seen as that. So just seeing how labels change, I think, and recognizing that's important.
So our idea of what is a sexual addict has changed throughout time.
I even think of the term nymphomaniac and how that's changed over time. I mean, that's kind of more geared towards a female, almost sex addict. What's the difference between a sex addict and a nymphomaniac or a hypersexual person? I mean, there's fine lines between all of those, but they're still all, terms that were created by people, so it's not going to always fit people.
And we often think of nymphomaniac as being a very female kind of thing, that only women can be nymphomaniacs, because men enjoying sex isn't a disorder, isn't a problem. So is there a gender context that also goes along with who's going to be labeled a sex addict and who's not?
It seems to be, because society puts these labels out there, and they tend to kind of point their finger at certain populations, it seems like, during certain time frames. So, the gay lesbian population has been targeted as being already deviant. So it's again just kind of putting those terms all together on people that may be in error.
Sure. Do you think that gay males are labeled sex addicts more than lesbians, or have behavior that may get them labeled more as sex addicts?
From my experience and what I've learned through talking with people, it does seem like men are more apt to be kind of categorized as sex addicts, specifically in the gay population. And again, that might be more of a social influence, that we think they're already experiencing kind of deviations from social norms, so they must be doing it in abundance, or they must be very, highly sexed or something like this. So there's a connection just in the way we kind of view homosexuality, I think.
Sure. And when we see couples who are embracing things like multiple partners, we see that as even more deviant. Now, not only are you gay, but now you're in multiple partners, you must be a crazed sex maniac. So how do you deal with clients dealing with all of these negative messages?
I think just working with an individual to get them comfortable to experience their own sexuality, whatever that may be, as long as they keep, the key would be to be safe and to protect themselves and others, and to make decisions coming from a healthy place, not to use sex as a coping mechanism for other problems that might be happening.
Sex for sex health. For the sake of sex.
Right, exactly.
And you said safety is a big part. What do you think about people who will seek out things like bareback parties, where they're having unprotected sex with multiple partners? Is that part of sex addiction, or is that completely separate? I
think there's a connection there, and red flags kind of go off when there's that kind of activity that is brings so much risk into the play, because you have to question the motivation of people participating. Are they doing this as an expression of freedom and to experience their own desires, or are they acting out of other issues that they might be having, fears that they may be having, self-esteem issues, or other negative motivations?
So in your opinion, the same behavior could be a problem and it could not be a problem?
Absolutely.
It just depends on the motivation behind it, why the person's doing this.
Exactly.
What do you think about other risky type behaviors? Would they play a part in sexual addiction, like asphyxiation during sex or bondage? Is that part of sex addiction as well, or is that separate?
I think all of these things can be connected or not. I mean, it's going to be on an individual basis, you know. Addicted to the, you know, the fear of maybe death or something like that, if it goes that far, then, I mean, addiction could play a role. But if it's just someone who wants to experience these things, even though it's risky behavior, it's not risky in the same sense that a bareback party would be, because you're dealing with, hopefully, educated people who know how to do what it is they're doing.
So again, if my life revolves around it, or I have no life because I'm involved in this, that's when it's becoming a problem.
Or you're just the safety issue. And I talk more, when I talk about safety, I'm talking more about safe sex with any partner that you're having. Of course, you're talking about asphyxiation. That's a different safety issue. That's more about knowledge in terms of techniques that you're using or whatnot.
So I get the idea in pop culture that any aberrant sex leads to sex addiction, or is a part of it. But you're really saying they're completely separate things, or they can be very very separate.
I think they really can be separate, but not always. You know, there is connections between some of these other disorders and sex addiction, and we know just from general public knows about addiction problems that they can transfer a sex addiction to an alcohol addiction, or that addiction is really the underlying problem. Then is it sex, or is it food, or, you know, looking at addiction as its own component is really important then too, to see what is, you know, how can this person deal with their addictive behaviors.
So what hole am I trying to fill with any of these things, whether it's alcohol or sex or chocolate?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's what you need to find out ultimately.
Right. Let's say I was concerned about my sexual behavior, and I was, you know, maybe some people have told me maybe you're too involved in sexuality, maybe you think about it too much. How would I know, or at what point would I seek out help, or should I seek out help?
As soon as you start to feel some uncomfortableness about your sexual behavior and you start to question it, I think that would be a good time to do some research on your own, go online, find out what is the definition of sex addiction. There are some tests you can do online to determine if you fall into categories, or meet with a therapist, and ultimately do some soul searching for yourself to see if your behaviors are really self-destructive, or if you're just a sexual person. It's okay to be the sexual person without having to be an addictive person.
And I think that's something that in the gay community we've had to do before. Just the coming out process is looking at my sexual urges, and are they normal, and is this right for me, or is this deviant behavior? So that would be a very similar journey, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think that for that reason the gay and lesbian population would have an advantage, because they already have gone through some of this internal soul searching that maybe, you know, a straight population would not have the advantage of. So they have some heads up there as far as
some tools already.
Yeah, exactly.
But we may have that same, on the other side, may already be questioning our sexuality, and may already have those insecurities about sexuality, where we may jump to conclusions like I'm a sex addict much quicker than maybe the heterosexual counterpart.
And that could be, definitely the downside, because of that. Already those experiences that maybe other people haven't had could get you to kind of question everything about your sexuality, which could have good and bad sides.
Sure. So let's say I came to you as my therapist to kind of work through some of these issues. Very briefly, what would you do with somebody who was looking at this as a problem?
Initially do a full sex history on them, looking at just the way things have evolved for them sexually from an early age on. And to have them kind of journal and do some note-taking as to when they're having thoughts or behaviors and actions that are related to what might be a sex addiction, to have a journal for themselves. How much is it actually happening? Maybe it's not as much as they think, and maybe it's not as destructive as they think. Maybe they're just concerned because it seems like a lot.
Or other people are telling them it's too much.
Or they feel,
maybe even their own partner is telling them it's too much.
Right, which, that's another fact or important thing to look at with sex addiction is partners. Is it a partner thing? Maybe there's mixed match libidos there. Maybe someone has a higher sex drive. That doesn't necessarily make a sex addict,
Thank God. So what would you suggest to anybody who's really struggling with this idea, any of our viewers?
to first do some internal kind of soul searching and seeing if in fact you think that this is a problem for you. If it's getting in the way of your relationships, you feel like you can't function at the level that you had in the past, or you still see kind of a deteriorating state of yourself and self-esteem, and just to try to work on what is it that this addiction is filling. You know, if
what
it
are
isn't,
those motivations?
Exactly. If
Sure.
the motivation isn't healthy and it's not empowering for you, it's a destructive factor. So what can be done to figure out what it is that that person is missing or lacking that kind of causes some of these responses with addiction?
Because overall, sex is good.
Sex is great.
Sex is great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I hate to, well, actually, I love to leave it there on sex is good. I think that's great. Well, I'm sure there's much more we could discuss about this topic, but we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank my guest, Tiffany Jones, for being with us and helping us explore this provocative issue. I'm Fawn Oats for Colorado Outspoken.
Bear to Make a Difference is an annual fundraiser and celebrity auction sponsored by the Matthew Shepard Foundation. Last year, the auction raised over $185,000, and this year's event was a sellout. Here's a look at what went on.
This is our 6th annual Bear to Make a Difference. Tonight we're honoring Elizabeth Birch from the Human Rights Campaign. It's just really exciting. We're sold out for the first time. Yeah, we're actually partnering with the Point Foundation Scholarships. We have 3 scholars this year, getting ready to name a 4th. We do things with the Human Rights Campaign, PFLAG, lots of nonprofits who are interested in the same things we are. We have a new website, new design. It's absolutely fantastic. It's interactive. Some of it's not quite complete yet, but it's absolutely wonderful. MatthewsPlace.com is going to transfer to that website, geared toward young people, moderated chats. It's just going to be full of resources made for young people.
I'm completely honored because Judy Shepard is one of those angels in our country, and she's probably the most qualified person on the planet to really interpret LGBT young lives to the country. And so it is the most amazing honor. With Judy, I don't kind of go, you know, it's not like a Disney ride. It's more like a ride through heaven. It's like a ride through wisdom, and it's more of a Buddhist journey. And I adore this woman, and I am so proud of her that she found in that small town girl self really the depth of wisdom, and she found her voice to teach the country. Thank you for watching Colorado Outspoken.
The Colorado Alliance for Family Equality is hosting its first Cafe Community Summit coming up in May. Here's Tom Biddle to take it from here.
The Colorado Alliance for Family Equality's first Community Summit is a day-long conversation of speakers, workshops, and network opportunities designed to restore, refocus, and revitalize Colorado's GLBT activist community in advancing the community's goal of achieving equality and fairness. With me tonight to talk about the summit and the history behind it are Karen Kellen, who is an attorney and mediator for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, where she is co-chair of the LGBT Employee Group. Karen serves on Lakewood's Diversity Commission and co-chairs the Jefferson County Democrats' LGBT Caucus. She has recently declared her candidacy for a seat on Lakewood's City Council. And John Ferguson. who is a consultant trainer living in Denver, where he works in the community to create change in racism and sexism. After a career in the international corporate world, John became a multiculturalism consultant in 2004. He serves on the board of PFLAG of Denver and is the chair of the CAFE Steering Committee. Welcome to Colorado Outspoken, both of you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for being here. John, the first question I have really is for you. Since I'm kind of ignorant about CAFE, could you tell us a little bit about the Colorado Alliance for Family Equality and how the organization came about and what its purpose is?
Well, the Colorado Alliance started, first of all, it is an alliance, so it's not a group of individuals, it's an organization of organizations. Now we have about 40 members. And it was started as a coalition or alliance to support equality in marriage for our community. About 3 years ago, when the Ref.I campaign came along, well, before that, when the campaign came out of Colorado Springs against us, we sort of folded into that and supported that campaign. And since then, since it lost, we realize now that that's not an issue that we can continue to sort of focus on. And so we're really trying to bring our community together on the broad front of all the issues that we face every day in our lives.
Absolutely, and it seems that since the election, people have been maybe feeling bad or feeling a little bit lost and dislocated and in the need for some revitalization. And Karen, I was looking at the materials for the summit, and I noticed that your keynote speaker says that his message is, quote, a word of hope for the lost, healing for the sick, comfort for the lowly, and restoration for the wounded. It was a bit dramatic, I thought, but I wondered how these adjectives describe many average Colorado LGBT citizens who in figurative ways might be feeling that dislocated since the election.
Well, they definitely described me right after the election. And while there are a lot of good results at the election, being a Democrat and all, it was definitely disappointing because I thought Colorado was ready. And then we have the election and the huge letdown in terms of getting our rights finally. And I kind of looked around and said, where do we go from here? And I saw a lot of other people really feeling depressed and defeated. And that's the last thing we need as a community.
Absolutely. I think that people have put a lot of stock into the domestic partnership and marriage questions, and as if those were the only issues that were out there. And it seems that marriage equality is the biggest issue. And I wonder if that, John, if you think maybe that emphasis has taken away attention from other issues that are just important to us. What else should we be paying attention to?
There's lots of other things we should be paying attention to. That was an important issue for us to focus on because it was brought to us by the religious right. And we had to challenge that. We had to stand up to it. We tried to. If we had won that, that would have been like the coup of the ages, I guess. But we didn't. It would have given us real equal standing in law and in society. There are lots of issues in terms of schools, in terms of our churches, and in terms of other areas of our lives, in terms of the workplace, for example. So there are lots of different issues that different organizations in our community are working on, and we wanted to bring all those people together and talk about all those different issues. So we're going to have a series of workshops at the summit, and various organizations will be talking about the things they're doing in schools, in workplace, against hate crime, and so forth. And then we'll try and as part of the summit, come together and bring people together to do work on those various issues.
Right. I want to talk specifically about the content of some of those workshops and things a little bit later. But this all kind of follows under the umbrella of what your planning committee co-chair, Mr. Thompson, calls a more mature, more sober, more resolute new wave of activism in Colorado than what we've seen before, and I wondered how activism has changed. What will this mature, sober, resolute activism look like?
Well, that's exactly what we're hoping to find out at the summit. The idea is that we take a look at some of these issues and then we come together to really look to the future, to where we're going, to what we want to do, and what we want to accomplish, and how we're going to get there. And I do think we need to reevaluate how we're going to get there and what we've done and how we've done it in the past. Because while we've had some successes, on the whole, we're still not getting those basic rights. So our more mature way is yet to be defined.
Okay, that's one of the reasons for the summit coming together. John?
One of the things I know it involves is this, that that we aren't going to win because we go to the legislature or do some kind of a TV ad campaign. We're going to win because we as individuals and as groups reach out to people in our community and make contact with them and help them understand who we are, which is to say, just like everybody else.
Of course.
Just as different as everybody else and just the same as everybody else. So that we're not bugaboos they have to be afraid of. They're their next door neighbor. And so we want to find ways to reach out at that personal level to people.
Absolutely. And now we get back to some of those specific kinds of workshops that the Summit will feature, and either of you can respond to this, whoever might be more knowledgeable about that. The people who come and participate, what kinds of activities will they find? What will greet them? What kinds of things will they be doing at the Summit?
Well, one of the workshops is going to be one that's done by the Boulder Valley Safe Schools Coalition. They have an absolutely model program for how to go into schools and create curriculum change and create change in the hearts and minds of school staff, teachers, principals, and everybody else who's in schools in order to gain acceptance for students who are now coming out in middle school, trans students coming out in middle school. One of the other people that will be part of that workshop are people coming out of Larimer County from the Loveland and Fort Collins schools who are just about to start a Safe Schools program. So it'll be an opportunity for people to see a model program of how it was done in Boulder and then see another example of somebody who's just starting out and what they're doing to work on safe schools in their community. So people who come to the Summit will have a chance to say, how could I do that in my community?
Oh, that sounds so wonderfully positive. Karen, what will you be doing at the Summit specifically? Have you got an assignment? Have you got a role that day?
Well, I'll probably be running around a lot and doing some organizing here and there, but we have basically 5 different tracks that we're working on for the Summit. We have the diversity track, which highlights the diversity in our community, people of color and transgender issues. We have the health and safety track, which goes along with what John was talking about. We have the legislative and legal track, which is probably one of my strong points, talking about where we are in the legislature, where we are moving forward on the legal front. We have the communities of faith track, and we also have the movement, past, present, and future.
That sounds wonderful. And you have organizations, as you were saying, John, that represent all of those different tracks, education, the faith, everything like that. We're planning to attend. Are there any specific participants that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, we're having, I know the center will be coming, and they will be doing some health seminars. We're still working out the details of exactly what their focus is going to be. But that plays into the health and safety track. We'll also have Equal Rights Colorado talking on the legislative fronts, where we are with the legislation that's been coming through this legislature, and where we're going in the future with that.
So a good way to come off of what was a disappointing election season, and we had our hopes up on 2 things that were on the ballot. We had Ref I and we had 43, and a way to rebound positively and bring a positive energy to the aftermath of that.
Absolutely, and that's a huge focus, especially for political junkies like myself.
The ERC has really figured out, not just by themselves, but in working with other organizations around the country, new ways to work on legal and legislative issues, to try and develop better alliances with the people in the straight community, so that it's not seen as this is just for gay people. It's for equal rights for everybody.
Exactly. I think that when gay people, quote, win, these kinds of, everybody actually wins in society. Right. If any of our viewers would like to get involved or attend the Summit, Karen, do you have any information for them on how they can do that?
Absolutely. They can send an email to cafesummit, that's one word, at AOL.com. And if they happen not to have email, is there anyone like that anymore?
I don't know.
I don't know. But they can,
my mother.
Yes. My mother, too. They can call 303-482-1690.
We wish you the very best with the Summit. I wish you the greatest success with it, and we hope that it's a big victory for you.
We hope so, too.
Well, it definitely sounds like the Summit is the place to be for everyone interested in advancing GLBT causes, both outside and inside the community. Remember, the Summit will be held Saturday, May 19th, and you can get all the details from our website at coloradooutspoken.org. I want to thank my guests, Karen Kellen and John Ferguson, for being with us. I'm Tom Biddle for Colorado Outspoken.
The state and federal Democratic legislative majorities appear to be a good thing for the GLBT community. At least there's some good news coming from the lawmakers. Here's Rick Miller to fill us in.
A bill to legalize second parent adoption passed the Colorado Senate recently along party lines with Democratic support and is expected to be signed by Governor Bill Ritter. The Greeley Tribune correctly reported that House Bill 1330 does not directly address same-sex couples, but it would allow a partner of a single parent to adopt the child. The intent is so the partner could then provide insurance and other benefits that otherwise would not be possible. Most other local media outlets insisted on incorrectly labeling the measure a gay adoption bill. A bill to add gays and lesbians to the list of groups protected by federal hate crime laws has been reintroduced in the U.S. Senate. Senators Ted Kennedy, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Gordon Smith, Republican from Oregon, have co-sponsored the legislation. The measure, which was introduced in the House last month, has been a long-time goal of Kennedy's and is considered much more likely to gain approval under the current Democratic majority. Iraqi lesbians and gays continue to be subjected to a systematic reign of terror by Shia death squads. Ali Hilli, coordinator of the human rights group Iraqi LGBT, said, "The government of Iraq refuses to crack down on the killers or to take any action to protect its gay citizens. It is a regime that is dominated by Shia fanatics and homophobes. Their goal is a queer-free, pro-homophobic Iraq. They are dragging our country back to the Dark Ages." Mr. Hilli is also the Middle East spokesperson for the gay human rights group Outrage. New York Democrat Matthew Titone will become the first out-state representative for Staten Island. Titone, who won a special election for an assembly seat on Tuesday with backing from Empire State Pride Agenda and the Victory Fund, is the fourth out member of the state legislature. Chuck Wolf, president of the Victory Fund, said, "The people of Staten Island have chosen an able and talented representative, and our community has gained a courageous leader." New Hampshire has taken a major step toward becoming the fourth state in the nation to have civil unions for same-sex couples. The New Hampshire House, by a wide margin, approved a bill to create the unions. Out Representative David Pierce, Democrat from Etna, said, "It is definitely a historic moment. I don't think anybody can deny that it's a historic moment." The measure still must be considered by the Senate, and it's not clear whether Democratic Governor John Lynch will sign it. Antiquated. That's what a 1913 law in Massachusetts has been called. The law, apparently originally aimed at interracial couples, is today being used to stop most out-of-state same-sex couples from marrying in Massachusetts. State Senate President Therese Murray, Democrat from Plymouth, is backing a bill to overturn the law and believes it stands a good chance of passing. However, marriage advocates are focused more on stopping a proposed constitutional amendment. Arlene Isaacson, co-chair of the Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus, says, "If we lose that, the rest doesn't matter." Same-sex couples in Washington state have taken a major step closer to equal marriage rights. The state legislature recently passed a domestic partnership bill, which is expected to be signed into law by the governor. Out Senator Ed Murray, Democrat from Seattle, sponsor of the measure, said, "I think we are closer to marriage than people realize, but it's still a multi-year process. It's still going to take a lot of work." An effort to enact a marriage ban in Indiana this year has been all but stopped after the majority of a state House panel failed to approve it. Several lawmakers cited concerns over the ban's impact on the ability of private employees and universities to offer domestic partner benefits and its possible nullification of domestic partner laws for unmarried couples. Although Wisconsin showed itself to be ahead of the times by passing in 1982 the nation's first LGBT civil rights law, activists say the state, which approved a marriage ban last year, has lost its progressive momentum. Former state legislator David Clarenbach said, "Rome wasn't built in a day, and homophobia doesn't end even 25 years after passage of our historic law." Clarenbach wrote the 1982 law prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation in housing, employment, and public accommodations. Hearings in Oregon on separate measures that would create civil unions and ban discrimination based on sexual orientation attracted standing room only crowds recently at the state capitol. The hearings marked the first time the civil unions bill, which was tabled in 2005, was being reviewed by the legislature. Amy Wilson, partner of State Representative Tina Kotek, Democrat from Corvallis, said, "We are strangers in the eyes of the Oregon law. Tina and I are family. We may not look exactly like your family, but we are family nevertheless." Fair taxation for same-sex couples may be a step closer. The Tax Equity for Health Plan Beneficiaries Act, a bill that would revise the tax code so that the value of same-sex partners' health insurance is treated the same way it is for a spouse and dependents, has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives. A similar bill in the Senate is said to be in the works. A federal judge has ordered a high school in South Central Florida to allow a gay-straight alliance to meet. The ruling says the alliance shall be permitted to meet under the same guidelines as any other club, while a lawsuit challenging its legality is heard in court. Officials at the Okeechobee High School had denied permission for the club to meet, saying it was sex-based and therefore contrary to its abstinence-only policy. The LGBT and Friends Ministry at Mile High Church in Lakewood is pleased to host popular entertainer Lanny Garrett and the Denver Gay Men's Chorus, both performing at their upcoming gala on Saturday, May 19th at 7 p.m. Tickets are $10, and you can register at their website at milehighchurch.org or by calling the events hotline at 303-232-4079. Mile High is the place to be if you're interested in learning more about The Secret, which has been featured on Oprah so much lately. They are also very supportive of the inclusive and diverse GLBT and Friends Ministry, so try to join them for this wonderful event. Finally tonight, we want to remind you that the May edition of Metromode magazine will be hitting the shelves soon. Metromode is the premier publication for the GLBT community, covering news, fashion, features, and entertainment. You'll want to be on the lookout for next issue at more than 200 places along the Front Range. Till next time, this is Rick Miller for Colorado Outspoken.
Harmony is a nonprofit, all-inclusive chorus committed to using the power of music to educate and empower its members and the community at large. And besides, they sing really great too. Here's Nicole Garcia to tell us more.
Toward the end of every program, we ask you to take a look at our bulletin board. Names, websites, or phone numbers appear. Those names and numbers represent real people, people who provide support or an outlet to express yourself. Tonight, a group is on from our bulletin board is here. I'm honored to introduce 3 members of Harmony, a Colorado Chorale. Bill Anama, who has been a member of Harmony since 2002, joined the board of Harmony in 2005 and has had the privilege of serving as president for the last year. Mary Stone, who has been a member of Harmony since 1999, has also been in a long-term relationship with a female-to-male transsexual for 9 years, with him first as a woman, then for the past 2.5 years as a man. And Katherine Cranbeard, who has been a member of Harmony since 2003 and currently serves as a volunteer sign language interpreter and teacher. I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. And Bill, would you tell us who makes up Harmony?
Well, Harmony at Colorado Chorale is a all-inclusive chorus, and we have members from the gay community, the lesbian community, bisexual, transgender, and straight allies. We are an all-inclusive chorus, and our artistic director, Bill Loper, works with anyone who comes to the chorus who wants to sing, so that we will be sure to have them on stage performing with each chorus concert that we give.
So when did Harmony, Bill, when did Harmony begin?
Harmony was founded in 1991 by Carol White, who is a local musician and choral leader. She had conducted a mixed voice chorus at the Gay Games and returned to Denver with the intention of forming a chorus that would carry on the spirit of what she felt at the Gay Games, bringing together people from all over the community.
Mary, you've been a member since 1999. How has Harmony evolved since that time?
When I first joined Harmony, we primarily did just vocal concerts. We would sing a few songs. We might have an outside performer come perform with us, and we would have a theme, but it was primarily music. We've moved more toward, in the past few years, toward doing a production where there's more speaking, there's more of a story told. We've actually done a couple of musicals, and there will be another musical in the spring of 2008. And it's been really exciting to see the growth and evolution of the choir.
Catherine, what inspires you to be a member?
I've really enjoyed working with people who came to Harmony who are handicapped. We've had members who were in wheelchairs, hard of hearing, blind, and I've really enjoyed working with them. I personally have multiple sclerosis, and so it's been great to have everybody in the choir work with me and help me and to get their support, but also to work with people who are handicapped in the gay and lesbian community.
That's wonderful. Something that's been inspiring to me, I looked on your website, www.harmonychorale.org, and I found a listing for your next performance. Bill, would you tell us about your next performance?
Sure. We're really excited about this concert. It will be May the 11th, 12th, and 13th at the MCC of the Rockies, Friday and Saturday evening at 8 p.m., Sunday at 3 p.m., and tickets are available online through our website. The title of the concert is Singing Outside the Box, Music and Gender. And we really are looking at this concert and have constructed the theme of the concert as an outreach to the transgender community. We really find it an inspiring part of Harmony's mission to include all people from the community. And we're really looking forward to this. We've spent a lot of time preparing for it. And it's been really interesting as I go around telling my friends and coworkers about the concert and that the theme is transgendered issues. They kind of look quizzical for a moment and say, well, that's interesting, but what kind of songs would you sing? And for me, one of the perfect examples is a musical setting of Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, which the lyrics are about making a choice of which road or which path to follow. And when you put that on the filter of transgender issues, it becomes even more powerful and taking the path that is appropriate for you as an individual.
Well, Mary, when I read your introduction, it mentioned a transsexual in your life. Did you have any input on this concert?
I did. As part of my partner's transition, he joined Harmony as a supporting member. He refuses to sing, but he came and helped out at rehearsals, collecting dues and selling tickets and that sort of thing. And I really came to realize that although we said we were a GLBT choir, we really weren't addressing some of the issues that arise for the transgendered community and weren't addressing some of the concerns and acknowledging their existence even. And so it was really important to me to reach out to the trans community. There are a lot of great singers in the trans community and we'd love to have them join us. There's actually a trans choir in San Francisco that does gospel music, and they are terribly inspiring. They're just wonderful. And I had an opportunity to see them perform, and I thought, well, if they can do that, we could have some of those people come sing with us and not have them be those people, have us include trans people. And I'm just so thrilled that we have the opportunity to do this. I think that trans people will find a home with Harmony, and I hope that some will join.
I find that every organization's leader will set the stage. And Catherine, I've talked to you about Bill Loper. Tell us about your artistic director.
I've been working with Bill Loper now for 26 years. He was my choir director at Arvada Junior High many, many years ago. And he was very welcoming back then of even students who were gay or lesbian. And now he is currently the choir director, vocal music teacher at Evergreen High School. And he's become one of my dearest friends.
So, Bill, if somebody wanted to join, where do you practice?
Our rehearsal space is at the 6th Avenue United Church in Denver, which is on the corner of Adams Street and East 6th Avenue, just off of the Cherry Creek North neighborhood. And we rehearse every Monday evening from 7 to 9:30. We also have a fundraiser for the chorus called the Gala Cafe, which begins at 6 p.m. And when you come in, you can have your dinner there, come straight from work, have a chance to sit down, socialize with other chorus members, and have a bite to eat, and then be ready to start rehearsal at 7 o'clock.
Well, I was lucky enough to be able to attend your rehearsal last night, and I enjoyed it immensely. And in a little bit, we're going to see just a snippet of that. But Mary, why do you keep going back? What makes Harmony special?
Harmony is my family. I'm not close with my biological family, and the members of Harmony have supported me through so much. I really feel like I've found a home with Harmony. I can cry in rehearsal, I can laugh, my best friends are there. It's really a special place.
Catherine, anything to add to that?
I agree. I've made some of the best friendships of my entire life in Harmony Chorale. Friendships that I know will last forever.
Okay, Bill. Last word.
Last word. Harmony is just a fantastic organization. We're musically excellent, but we also enjoy one another's company, and we really are a family, and everyone works well together. And I just hope that we're able to see many people from your audience in our audience at our concert on May 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Well, we've talked so much about Harmony. You should hear how incredible they sound. But before we do that, I want to thank my guests, Bill Inama, Catherine Cranbeer, and Mary Stone, for being with us tonight. I'm Nicole Garcia. Now sit back and enjoy Harmony, a Colorado Chorale.
I know you want to stay connected with what's going on in our community. How? By watching the bulletin board. Of course, it's coming up right now. Of course, many movies have been made about World War II, but there's always an opportunity to tell a story with a different twist. That's just what you'll find in tonight's movie called Black Book.
Juffrouw Stein? Rachel Stein?
Ausgezeichnet.
Er is de Vries.
Ludwig Münster.
Hoe ver zou je met hem willen gaan? U bedoelt met hem naar bed?
Alice? We moeten onderste steen boven.
Black Book is playing at the Landmark Theaters. If you'd like a pair of free tickets, just give us a call on the movie line at 303-861-0829. We'll give a pair of tickets to 10 randomly selected callers. Give us a call. Well, that's all we have for tonight's show. We want to thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Sunday, May 27th at 10 p.m. right here on KBDI Channel 12. So we hope to see you then. Of course, you can always catch us online. just check out our new and cool, fabulous website, coloradooutspoken.org. I'm Stephen Montez. Good night.